Welcome back to Healing Mindset. Beautiful souls, I am Nazish, and today's conversation shines a light on the kind of healing many people live through quietly, the healing of identity, self worth, and inner voice in the face of hearing loss. I am joined by Maureen Covinsky, certified life coach, advocate, and the author of My Voice Beyond Hearing Loss. Her memoir is more than a story of navigating silence. It is a story of rediscovering personal truth, breaking free from perfectionism and people pleasing, and reclaiming confidence with deep grounded clarity. Maureen's journey is a reminder that healing isn't just what we overcome, it is about who we choose to become. Welcome to Healing Mindset. I am so grateful to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's all right. It's all right. So, your book captures such a profound inner transformation. What moment along your journey made you feel I need to write this story?
Um, Actually, I had a business mentor that made the suggestion that I should write my hearing loss story to help me figure out how I wanted to navigate my life after the loss of both my parents, and what that would look like, and felt that it would be a very good idea for me to write it down. And I was actually kind of resistant. I shouldn't say kind of. I was resistant because I'm like, no, I'm not a writer. Um, because it turns out, it was very healing for me to, write this. I had a lot of, um, I don't wanna call it blame. I blamed, my family background for a lot of things that, went on in my life at the time, and, even with my own hearing loss, journey, um, and came to realize that my mother and my family did the best that they could with what they had at the time, and, it's up to me to move forward in the way that's best for me, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and that is so beautiful. And the sheer honesty of it is amazing. When you finally began writing, what part of the story surprised you with how emotional or revealing it can become?
Um, I think there's a lot of stories that I I let people in on in my book, that happened to me at the time, and, I think it gave me especially writing this, gave me a lot of insight into what was going on at the time. I mean, when you're a child, when you're 7 years old and you have to help your mother, communicate with the world, it's there's not an understanding that you have, at that time, and looking back, as an adult, being able to look at my childhood as an adult and realize that, I'm actually needing some of the same things she was needing. Um, and I think there's a lot more, I'm trying to think of the word. There's a lot more, um, things that you can rely on now that weren't necessarily there in the 70s and 80s, hearing loss was something that, we hid very much. You didn't run into a lot of people that also had hearing loss, especially like people that started hearing and lost it early in life. I'm not talking about when, you're an older adult. Um, so to lose your hearing in your mid 40s or mid 30s and having to deal with that, there wasn't much there to rely on. Um, After I got my cochlear implants and everything, um, I came into contact with the HLAA, which is the Hearing Loss Association of America, and even Cochlear Corporation. And you find out there's a lot of people like me out there. So um, that's a big difference from when I was growing up. And want to make sure that my duty now is to make sure that people know that there's options out there.
That is something very beautiful. And the way you put it, like hearing that helps listeners understand how healing often unfolds through expression, not just reflection. That is amazing. So, many people with hearing loss struggle silently with emotional layers that go unseen. What emotional truth did you uncover that shifted the way you saw yourself?
I felt like I was not, because I started out with helping my mother and stuff like that. I felt like I was not seen or heard. All my whole life was about helping. I shouldn't say my whole life, part of my life. Um, I wanted. I realize now, when I was younger, it was my whole life was geared towards helping her, but realized it was only a part of my life. Um, so so at that time growing up, I felt unseen, unheard. Her, um, which her needs were, when we were in the family, her needs were more important than mine. Um, and then just come to realize that I've gotten involved in a group of people of I've my peer group and stuff that allows me to say what I need to say and not worry about if they'll approve or not. They're very. I have a supportive tribe. So that's a big difference between when I was, even up until, I'm gonna be I actually I'm actually gonna be 60 in 6 months. So most people don't realize that when they see me. Um, but that's a big
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that as well.
yeah. Yeah, I'm very and that's another thing. I'm very upfront about my age now. I used to hide it. I don't. If people ask, I mean, I don't care if if people know how old I am anymore, um, just, I forgot where I was going with this. But anyway, um, just, being able to have that supportive tribe is so important. So, one of the things I wanna let people know, when they're listening to this, is it's important to have that supportive tribe behind you, whether they're family or friends. Hopefully, they're both. Um, Finding your local hearing loss association in America, um group, having that support behind your hearing loss, um, having people, um, with you that support your dreams, like, writing a book, is so important in life.
It is. It is. And, vulnerability often shows us truth we have been carrying for years. And listening to your story and your honesty is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. How did embracing the truth change the way you show up in your daily life?
I think, it's helped me. I'm more upfront about my hearing loss. So, if I'm in a new group of people. I think, even with you, I said, I asked you if there was, like, captioning available for this. So being upfront about asking what your needs are or my needs are. So being able to say, let somebody know that I need to, um, stand next to them while they're speaking, so that I can understand them. Um, There were some things I didn't know, like when my brothers and I took, a vacation this summer in July, to Iceland. And, that first day they came out and said, well, we're going to be using these things that have earbuds, so that, when we're touring some things that I can't talk loud in, you'll be able to hear me. And that's something that I couldn't use. Had I known, I would have brought my headphones with me, because the headphones, I would have been able to use headphones instead of the earbuds. I didn't bring them with me. My bad. I know in the future that if I take another tour with them, that I should bring headphones just in case. So, I mean, it's like one of those, things that you need to ask questions I didn't realize I needed to ask questions before this tour. Um, but going in and asking questions is important, saying, what are the parameters of this? And, making sure that if there's parameters that aren't meeting your needs to let people know. I think that's the most important thing that I have started to do more of, um, when I go out in the public.
It is incredible, and the best part that how open you are about it, how you put it out in front of people, it makes it more easy for many of our listeners to feel all right with their hearing loss as well.
Yes. I think it's very important to be upfront with,
Yeah.
hearing loss because you can't tell. If you looked at me, you would never know. I mean, if you saw my hair's long now, but if you saw these are my cochlear implant, this is the outside processor. So there's something I have a magnet in here that connects this with that allows the sound to transmit to my brain so that I can hear. But with my long hair and everything, you can't see that, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
If you were behind me and you called to me and I ignored you, um, you know, um, you wouldn't know that it's because I have hearing loss. Yeah.
Yep. You often talk about perfectionism and people pleasing. What made those patterns feel so deeply tied to your hearing loss?
Well, I think, especially with my mom and helping my mom, I wanted to make sure excuse me, I wanted to make sure she understood everything that was going out in the world. Um, she was also, a woman that had a lot of questions about things, so being able to, um, make sure that I covered everything possible, excuse me, that she wanted to know without getting those questions asked. So just always making sure that everything was covered. Everything, was covered, um, and feeling horrible if I missed
How you're telling everything, and it really helps our listeners to see how, you know, how we can be upfront about it, and how these coping strategies can disguise themselves as personality traits.
right. I mean, it wasn't that perfectionism wasn't just with my mom. I mean, and then it carried over everything else in my life. That started with my mom and it wanting to be the best daughter that I could be, and then it became wanting to be the best friend, best person in the room, kind of thing.
Definitely. So, as you guide others now, what's one practice that helps people break out of those patterns with compassion rather than self judgment?
That's a good question. Remembering that your own needs matter as well is really important, and knowing that you are doing the best that you can in the moment is important. I mean, you can still you can still make sure people are engaged, but it's also not really your responsibility either.
That's beautiful, and healing framed as gentleness instead of pressure makes that path feel sustainable. Your coaching helps individuals reclaim confidence. What does confidence look like when it comes from inner alignment rather than external approval?
Um, I think it looks like going out and doing the things that you want to do, um, being able to nicely say no when maybe it's suggested to do something that you don't necessarily want to do, not going with the crowd, so to speak, and saying no, being able to say no. I don't being able to say no and not feel guilt, like I should have said yes. Um, I think that's the important thing. Um, I have 3 dogs and 3 birds, which luckily you have not heard. Um, Having someone say, when I went to get my 3rd dog saying, "You don't need a 3rd one," and was what, and saying, "This is gonna complete my family," so to speak, and saying, "No, this is right for me," and knowing what's right.
And I love dogs. I mean, they're the best in the world.
I have 3 small ones, so just so people know, they're all over, they're 12, 11, and 7 pounds. So, even though I have 3 dogs, which seems like a lot, it's only 1 big medium dog total.
That is amazing. It's such a beautiful conversation with you, trust me. So like I'm just curious, like for someone who feels defined by their limitations, what inner permission do they need to give themselves first?
Um, I think they need to have compassion with themselves. People need to have compassion with themselves and say, "I'm doing the best I can." Um, if that means, letting people know what they need, that's the most important thing, to helping with the confidence. People don't know, they can't do anything for you. You can't expect people to change for you, but you can ask. And, I think that's the most important thing to, like, gaining confidence and feeling better with the outside world, so to speak.
That is that's such a grounding reminder, and it gives us a permission to that there is a lot of possibility around us.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of possibilities around us. You just need to ask and look for it.
Yeah, your book blends memoir with guidance. What message do you hope stays with readers long after they close the final chapter?
Um, I think I have a couple chapters, in my book in which I, talk about things I've learned, and I have them written down so I don't forget them. So if I'm looking off to the side, that's why. And I just started like 3 of them. Rest is not a luxury; it's a necessity, especially when you have hearing loss. There's auditory fatigue, so when you're out in the world a long time, all day, you want to come home and be able to rest, and rest is very important. Um, Denial only delays healing, and gratitude shifts everything. Those are my top 3, that I feel like are important for people to understand and to take away, from my book. Um, and then let's see, um, I do have a quote about myself that I made when I was after I wrote the book. If you don't mind, I'll share it.
Please go ahead.
And go to my book with it. I used to use my hearing loss as a reason to hide and be small. That's no longer true. I now use it as a beacon to help others.
That is absolutely beautiful, and I am pretty sure that many of our listeners are going to write them down as well after they listen to this podcast for them to remember it and for a constant motivation for themselves as well.
Right. I hope.
And yeah, and there are going to be a lot of people to carry them on through their hardest days.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. My book, even with people without hearing loss, will get something out of this book.
And if you could offer one, grounding reminder to someone just beginning their healing journey, what could it be?
I think be gentle with yourself. I think is the most important thing. I think be gentle. Be gentle with yourself first.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people get to be gentle with themselves. And, it is such a simple, real, and strong enough advice and reminder to hold someone through their first steps.
Yeah, I mean, the first steps, yeah, there's gonna you're gonna may have missteps. You're gonna not always know what to do, but, having that in your mindset is
And being gentle through that time, it is amazing.
yeah.
So, Marine, for anyone who wants to read your book, connect with your coaching, or follow your work, where can they find you?
Well, my book is on Amazon.com. You could look it up by, sorry, My Voice Beyond Hearing Loss. You could put it on there. Um, I also have a landing page where you'll also see, a link to the book, and that's hearetohearyou.com, and that's HEAR, the number 2, HEAR, the letter U.com. It also can get to me, I do have a business email, and that's Maureen at hearetohearyou.com. So MAUREEN at HEAR, number 2, HEARU.com.
That is amazing. I will make sure to include all these details into the show notes so that a lot of our listeners can reach out to you. So,
Perfect.
Marine, your journey is reminds us that healing isn't about overcoming a condition. It is about returning to the truth of who we are and choosing to live from that place with courage and clarity. So, dear listeners, if her story resonates with you, take a moment today to honor your own voice, however it shows up. Every step towards self acceptance is a step towards freedom. Until next time, I am Nazish, and this is Healing Mindset.